Hello and welcome to Standard Voice Television Global News. Today is May 2026. Equivalent Islamic calendar, 19th day of Zulqa'dah, 1447, after Hijrah. In headlines, President Tinubu seeks Senate's confirmation of Joseph Tegbe as Prime Minister. Independent National Electoral Commission resumes final phase of nationwide voter registration. Troops of Operation Pansanya mark scores of terrorists and recover weapons in Zamfara. On the international scene, Russian strikes kill over 20 ahead of ceasefires proposed by Kyiv, Moscow. And on sports updates, Malawi coach threatens to stop FALCONETS in Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers. These are more news to be coming to you in that bulletin. I am Hamida Muhammad Idris. Thank you for joining us now. The news in details. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has sought the Senate to confirm the nomination of Joseph Tegbe as Minister of Power following the resignation of Adebayo Adelabu. The request was contained in a letter read on the floor of the Senate on Tuesday by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio. Akpabio, after reading the letter, referred the nomination to the Committee of the Whole for immediate consideration. Tegbe's nomination followed the resignation of Adelabu to pursue the Oyo State governorship election ahead of the 2027 polls, in line with a directive requiring political appointees seeking elective office to step down. In an earlier statement, the special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, said the nomination was aimed at strengthening ongoing reforms in the power sector. The government is intensifying engagement with skilled stakeholders and development partners to strengthen humanitarian responses across Nigeria. Vice President Kashim Shettima disclosed this in Abuja while receiving a delegation from the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC led by Doris I.L. Dohe. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications Office of the Vice President Stanley Wakcha, in a statement said it is only when the government continue engaging with organizations like the Red Cross that Nigeria can address some of the gray areas in humanitarian responses across the country. Earlier, the ICRC delegation leader, Doris, commended Nigeria for domesticating the Kampala Convention for the Protection and Assistance of Internally Displaced Persons (IDPs), noting that the country has set a standard for others across Africa. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is rebuilding international confidence in Nigeria through economic diplomacy, strategic partnerships, and regional cooperation. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, made the assertion at a book launch authored by Eneje Onobu, saying it is a celebration of Nigeria's diplomatic history, institutional memory, and commitment to national service. Akume, who was represented by Professor Babatunde Polaji, emphasized that memo chronicled Nigeria's diplomatic journey over several decades and highlighted the sacrifices made by diplomats in protecting Nigeria's image and strategic interests abroad. He, however, noted that Nigeria had continued to pursue purposeful international engagement anchored on economic diplomacy and regional stability. In his remarks, Onobu reflected on his diplomatic career spanning 40 years from 1975 to 2015, describing it as demanding but fulfilling. Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says the third and final phase of the nationwide continuous voter registration (CVR) will begin on May 11, 2026 as preparations intensify ahead of the 2027 general elections. The chairman of its Information and Voter Education Committee, Muhammad Kudu Haruna, in a statement said the exercise will run until July 10, 2026, providing another window for eligible Nigerians to register. INEC also explained that the second phase of the exercise was suspended on April 17, 2026 to allow for data cleanup following the publication of the Register for Claims and Objections. The electoral umpire urged eligible citizens who have turned 18, as well as those who miss earlier phases, to take advantage of the opportunity, noting that provisions have been made for new registrations and updates. Moving on, 17 members of the House of Representatives have become to Nigerian Democratic Congress (NDC) from the African Democratic Congress (ADC). The defections were announced on the floor of the Green Chamber during Tuesday's plenary session by the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu. The lawmakers cited unresolved crises as a reason for their decision to leave the party. The development is coming amid a wider wave of political realignment reportedly linked to ongoing tensions and structural disagreements within the EDC, which some stakeholders have described as disruptive to party cohesion. Former presidential candidate Peter Obi and Rabiu Kwankwaso were among prominent political figures who recently aligned with the NDC. The ruling All Progressives Congress (APC) says recent federal attention to the note has nothing to do with the politics of 2027. The national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC), Ntangwe Wadda, made the assertion in a statement, noting that the scale, depth, and internationally of ongoing federal government interventions underscore a clear commitment to repositioning notes as a hub of productivity, trade, education, and infrastructure driving growth. He maintained that the recent attention accorded the region by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led government is designed to transform it into a formidable economic bloc and a model of development for neighboring countries across West and Central Africa. Iliwagda noted that the northern region is strategically positioned to serve as a gateway to neighboring countries such as the Niger Republic, Chad, Cameroon, and the Benin Republic. The news is coming to you on Standard Voice Television. So to come in the news. Troops of Operation Fonsenya mark scores of terrorists and recover weapons in Zamfara. On the international scene, Russian strikes kill over 20 ahead of ceasefires proposed by Kyiv and Moscow. And on sport update, Malawi court threatens to sub FALCONETS in under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers. These and more news will be coming to you after this short break. Do stand by. Welcome back from that short break, and now the news continues. Troops of Sector 2, Operation Fonsenya have killed scores of terrorists and recovering weapons during a series of coordinated clearance operations in some first states. Media Information Officer of the Joint Task Force Northwest, Lieutenant Colonel Aliud Nja, in a statement said the operations were targeting non-terrorist hideouts in several communities. The affected areas included Mekanuga village in Talata Mafara local government area, as well as Ajuma, Gidandawa, Magamididi, and Tungar Magaji villages in Maradun local government area. The spokesperson explained that troops encountered terrorists at Tungar Magaji, where a fire gun battle followed. He, however, added that after the encounter, soldiers searched the area and recovered one AK-47 rifle loaded with 30 rounds of ammunition, as well as motorcycle. Zakiru Umaru, one of the accused standing trial in the alleged bid to violently topple President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government, has confessed his involvement in the coup plot in 2025 right inside the presidential villa. Umaru, an employee in the maintenance department at the presidential villa working with Julius Berger Nigeria Limited, said he was co-opted into the coup plot by one Inspector Ahmed Ibrahim attached to the presidential clinic. In a recorded video of his statement, Umaru narrated how his contacts with individuals later identified as key figures in the plots began in May 2025. Through the third defendant, Inspector Ahmed Ibrahim, attached to the presidential clinic. The court also viewed a separate video involving an Islamic cleric, Sheikh Imam Qasim Ghani, who denied any involvement in the coup plot, said he received funds from Colonel Ma'aji strictly for prayers and charitable purposes, including requests for spiritual intervention following alleged setbacks in promotion. The presidency has engaged local contractors with a view to revolving outstanding federal government obligations to them. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Tayo Oyodele, who disclosed this during a high-level meeting with representatives of the All Indigenous Contractors Association of Nigeria at a meeting in his office in Abuja. He assured them that they owed them will be settled in a fair, transparent, and structured manner as part of broader effort to sustain economic reforms and strengthen public confidence. The minister, however, emphasized that the process will balance fiscal realities with government responsibility to honor legitimate obligations. In another development, Abdullahi Umar Ganduje has publicly referred to Muhammad Sanusi II as the Emir of Kano State. The former Kano State governor made the remark at the government house Kano during the swearing-in of the new deputy governor Murtala Sulagaru. Ganduje, while speaking, greeted Sanusi and recognized him as chairman of the Kano State Council of Emirs. The development is considered significant as it marks the first time Ganduje has openly acknowledged Sanusi in that role since removing him as emir in 2020 while serving as governor. Sanusi was later reinstated following the election of Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf. Moving to the foreign scene, Russian attacks killed over 20 people across Ukraine ahead of rival unilateral ceasefires proposed separately by Moscow and Kyiv. Authorities in Zaporizhia said 2 people were killed in a Russian aerial attack, which President Volodymyr Zelensky described as a cynical terrorist strike, adding that 5 people were killed in Kramatorsk and 4 in the Dnipro. Also, authorities in the Czech Republic said 2 people were killed and 32 injured in a drone attack on Tuesday morning. Russia and Ukraine had declared unilateral ceasefires ahead of commemorations held by Russia to mark the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany on Saturday. Russia said it will hold a ceasefire on 8 and 9 May 2026 and threatened a massive missile strike on central Kyiv if Ukraine violated the truce. Finally, to the sport and scene, Malawi women's coach Maggie Turnbull believes her team can overturn their first-leg deficit against Nigeria when they force the FALCONETS in the second leg of the final round of qualifiers for the 2026 Under-20 Women's World Cup. The FALCONETS dominated the first leg in Kenya on Saturday, ending a 2-0 win over their Malawian counterparts. The win boosted Nigeria's chances of securing yet another spot at the tournament, where they have been ever present since it was launched as an under-19 competition in Canada in 2002. After a goalless first half, Nigeria took lead through an own goal by Maureen Kenneth before Kindness Ifeanyi doubled the advantage. Finally, on the news, the top stories again. President Tinubu seeks Senate's confirmation of Joseph Tegbe as Prime Minister. Independent National Electoral Commission resumes final phase of nationwide voter registration. Troops of Operation Pansanya mark scores of terrorists and recover weapons in Zamfara. On the international scene, Russian strikes kill over 20 ahead of ceasefires proposed by Kyiv, Moscow. And on sports updates, Malawi coach threatens to stop FALCONETS in Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers. On behalf of the production crew led by Elia Adamo Auta, I am Hamida Muhammad Idris. Thanking you for investing your time and staying with the news.